But I am going to cover it, review it a little bit, and we'll get going. Now, if you guys ever want me to stop, or if you ever have a question, let's make sure our masks are up, please. Thank you. All right. If you guys ever have a question, please let me know. All right. And we'll be good to go. So acids and bases. Now, can anybody, before we get started, tell me an example of an acid? What's an acid? Anybody know an example of an acid?
The thing that burns you.
Say that one more time. Hydrochloric acid. That's a very, very strong acid. What about a lemon? Is a lemon an acid? Yeah. An orange. Orange is an acid. What about milk? Milk is an acid. Oh, milk is an acid, actually. A lot of people think milk's a base. It's very acidic. So anyway, we're going to cover different types of acids. Now, bases, example of bases are like cleaning supplies. A lot of soap, cleaning supplies, all that type is example of bases. Okay, so what we're going to do is, hopefully you guys can see my screen, a little bit about acids, bases. Acids. Now, we're going to write down about three things. Three things I want you guys to write down. I think. Pretty sure only three. One of them is acids. Oh. Well, three things for each. 3 acids, 3 bases. Acids always begins with an H. All right, so that's one of the things I want you to write down. Acids formula always begins with an H. All right, the example I gave was Timmy's example. Timmy said hydrochloric acid, so that's HCl. So acids always start with an H. In addition, they produce hydronium ions. So they produce H3O or H. Those two are the same thing. Okay. All right, so someone's microphone's on. Might want to turn that off. So it produces hydronium ions, H3O or H. Those two are the same thing. Okay. And the last one is pH. Now we're going to be talking about a little bit more about pH today. pH is anything that has it's the amount of hydronium ions. So pH below 7, that means it's an acid. Okay, that means it's an acid. All right, you do not need to write these last few things on there. They taste sour. All right, so if you have like a lemon, lemons taste sour. It reacts with metals, and it can be corrosive. Okay, but I just want you to write the first 3. All right, produce a hydronium, water, pH below 7. All right, bases. Well, common acids. Okay, we'll go over this. So we listed a few. Common acids are vinegar. So vinegar is a common acid. Stomach juice. All right, so sometimes people get heartburn. That's stomach acid. Okay, so we have acid in our body. Lemons, acid rain, battery acid. That's a very strong one. All right, so acid rain, I got a little picture over here. So where we have pollutants in our air, and when rain comes down, the pollutants in the air actually absorb into the rain molecules, and that's where we get acid rain. It's pretty crazy. It's interesting, actually. All right. So those are acids. Bases. Bases. The formula. This is. I had 3 things we want to talk about bases. Here's one. The formula ends with OH. All right, the formula ends with OH. That is key. Okay, so bases, formula ends with OH. They produce hydroxide ions. Okay, so bases produce hydroxide ions. And the OH is hydroxide, right? And the third thing is the pH is above 7. Okay, the pH is above 7. So it's actually quite interesting because if we think about it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something real quick. I'll go back to the slide here in a minute. But if we say acids, acids, their pH is always less than 7. Bases, their pH is always greater than 7. Now, if we look at it, acids always start with an H. You don't have to write this down. I'm just showing you guys. Acids always start with an H. Bases always end with OH. So if we look at this, what molecule can start with an H and end in an OH? What is that? It's water, H2O. So water is it's a combination of an acid and a base, and that's where our pH is equal to exactly 7. Water is equal to a pH of exactly 7. So I always find that a little interesting. When you combine the two, that's how it kind of works. Okay. So if we check this out, all right, bases are bitter and they conduct electricity. You don't need to write those last two. As long as you have formula ends in OH, it produces hydroxide ions, and the pH is above 7. All right, so common bases. Baking soda, okay? Tums. So some people have heartburn and you take Tums. That's because Tums is a base, okay? You have stomach acid and you add a base to it, the acid and the base neutralize. And that's why people take Tums. Really fascinating stuff. Some lotions, soap, cleaning products, all of those are different examples. You don't need to write these down, just showing you some examples of bases. And then we talked about water. Water is the combination of the two, all right? And you don't have to write this down. Basically, it's a combination of the two and has a pH of 7, making it neutral. Okay, water has a pH of 7. Okay. Last slide. Here we go. Indicators. All right, so how do we know if something's an acid or a base? All right, so we use indicators, okay, or a pH tester. All right. And if you look at some of these, this is universal. This is a lot of different types. We'll be doing a lab that has phenolphthalein. Yeah, I think that's the only one. Phenol red, maybe we'll get to. Litmus paper, indicator paper, cabbage juice, phenolphthalein, pH probes. Today, we are going to be using a pH probe. Okay, and these are just examples of different types of indicators. Okay. Now, what I mean by the pH probe is if you guys go to Google Classroom, there's an assignment called PhET activity. Okay. It will pull up this, all right, and ask some pre-lab questions, all right, which we should hopefully wrote down in our notes. So what is the pH range for an acid? What is the pH for a base? All right. And then when you scroll down, oh, I scrolled a little too far. My computer's running a little slow. There we go. There's a link, and this link will take you to a pH probe. Okay, so hopefully you can see this probe where you can add different substances. So, for example, you can add water, and then you can find the pH of water. Well, the pH of water is 7. When you're done using a sample, you can drain it. And in today's lab, you have to find 3 acidic solutions and go down here. So drain cleaner's already done for you. All right, so let's do a different one. Let's do coffee or milk. Let's do milk. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add milk. Okay, I'm going to test the pH of milk. In this, milk is an acid, right? So milk has a pH of 6.50. So what you're going to do is type in milk. Initial pH is 6.50, and that makes it an acid. Now, here you got to play around a little bit. So what happens if 0.75 liters is milk and 0.25 is water? So what you got to do is you got to add it up. Takes a minute to add all the milk. So 0.75, 1, 2, about right there. Okay, so that much milk. The rest I have to add water. A little bit more, a little bit more. There we go. Now my pH is 6.58. So what you're going to do is you're going to put 6.58 there. And you're going to keep doing this to determine the different pHs when water is mixed. All right, so when you want to get rid of a solution, you can just drain it. Okay, and then you'll fill in this chart. You only have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't matter any 5 you want to do. All right, you can do any of these 5. Water would be a very easy one to do. All right, and then some pH or some questions about what happens when you add water to an acid. What happens when you add water to a base? All right. Is there any questions on that? I kind of went through a decent amount of information real quick. Do you guys have any questions on that? All right. Well, if you guys don't have any questions, you guys have the rest of class to work on that. So you guys have 23 minutes. All right. That should be enough time to get a good start on it. Yeah, that should be enough time. I will stay on the Google Meet. So if you guys have questions, let me know. Like I said, I will stay on the Google Meet. If you don't have questions, you guys can log off and try completing this. And that's all I got for you guys today. All right. So yeah, I will stay on if you guys have questions. If not, I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to do a little research project about a very specific acid named Coke. We're going to look up some Coke and see if it's healthy, what's the benefits, what's the harms, etc. Sound like a plan? Sweet. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any questions, I hope you guys have a fantastic day.
Is your wife okay?
Yeah, she's doing all right. Thanks for asking.
Welcome.
She last week was a little. She was more sick last week, but over the weekend she got a little bit better, which is good. We're both teachers, so it's a little interesting. Both of us being home on Google Meets all day long, so it's kind of a little interesting. She's in the kitchen, and I'm in our little desk area. So,
All right. Make sure you take care of her, man.
all right, you too. We'll see you.
I don't want no call now.
All right.
Man. All right.
See you, Ben.